Raider Nation, let's get it.
Jacobs is on his way. The Raiders are going to win this game.
Let's go. Let's go.
Then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
Yo, what is good, Raider Nation? Welcome to another episode, another live show right here. Without further ado, let's just wait for a little bit, get some more people in the chat. I see a couple. Oh, shout out to what's good, Robert Pena. Salute, Raider Alex. Salute to you, my guy. How are you doing? He's got a Raiders. And before I go too deep, can you guys hear me okay? Is the audio good and everything? If you guys can hear me and everything, just put a 1 in the chat. It should all be good to go. Richard Lyon. Alex, salute, brother. How are you doing, my guy? All good, says Robert Pena. Bet. Jeffrey Brewer says Raiders. Nice. Bruce says all is good. Okay. Okay, but without further ado, let's jump into the topic of this video. As you can see by the thumbnail and by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about our guy Josh Jacobs. A lot of people, most people got mixed opinions on what we should end up doing with Josh Jacobs moving forward. It's going to be very interesting. We'll definitely talk about it. Kevin Lurker, Raiders, what's good, Alex? Salute, Robert Pena. Shout out to my guy, Digital Press, my Cuban brother. Was good, my guy. And anybody that hasn't done so already, make sure to go on social media, on Instagram. Make sure to follow our guy, Digital Press. He's got a Raiders Instagram theme channel called Raiders Resistance. Make sure to check this guy out, man. Good stuff over there. And he's also got a YouTube channel as well. I'm pretty sure it's just Digital Press. Make sure to follow our guy as well. But let me go ahead and pull up this little graphics. Oh, wait. Full screen. There we go. But yeah, as I said, the topic of the video, we're going to talk about our guy, Josh Jacobs. So look, we all know Josh Jacobs. He is due for a big contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders applied the franchise tag on Josh Jacobs. I think it was back in March. And the deadline for Josh Jacobs to sign his franchise tag is coming up pretty soon. It's right around the corner. July 17th is the deadline for him to sign his the franchise tag tender. And yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things going on between Jacobs and the Raiders. It seems like Josh Jacobs on social media, he's been putting out some very cryptic messages. The main one we're going to talk about right now is this tweet that he recently put out there saying bad business. Now, look, at first, I didn't know, what to really make of that because it's a pretty broad statement. He could really be talking about anything, right? But after, as we'll see here too, Jacobs actually responded to somebody, and it was on a Raiders Resistance Instagram channel. We have the screenshot right here. So if you can see right here, Raiders with Marcos says it's either he signs a tag, signs a deal, or sits out. And if he sits out, that's on him. And shortly after that, our guy Josh Jacobs responds to this message directly to him and says it was football related. The problem with y'all fans is y'all don't know anything on the inside that's been or being discussed. You assume I'm asking for too much and create a narrative when y'all just need to sit back and shut up for real. So, I mean, first, damn, I mean, Josh Jacobs coming for that guy's head, like, damn, bro. But yeah, I mean, now we can, basically we can confirm that, whatever he tweeted was football related. Now, like you said, I mean, I'm not an insider. I'm not on I don't know what's been said, what's been going on between Jacobs and the Raiders front office. And that's where I want to get your guys' opinions too. I've heard a lot of things. I've heard some people, state that it seems like Josh Jacobs, basically that the Raiders have not reached out to Josh Jacobs yet. And, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, if that is true, that is pretty concerning because, the Raiders back in March or whenever, when we signed him to the franchise tag, that was essentially, a lot of us just kind of thought, I mean, that was, we all kind of expected that, right? And we all knew that the deadline was sometime in July. So, from March to July, that's about 4 months. And, that gave the Raiders a lot of time to try to, sort out a long-term deal with Josh Jacobs. And if that is true, that there hasn't been a whole lot of if there's been zero communication, then at that point, I mean, we don't, that would be very concerning because really the past month or so, there hasn't been a whole lot of news related to the Raiders. I mean, it's been pretty slow. So if that is the case, I mean, that's very concerning. I mean, what else could they be doing? You would think that at the very least they would, have reached out to Josh Jacobs by now, kind of get the, I guess like a feeling out process. How much money does Josh Jacobs want? What kind of guaranteed money is he looking for? The length of the deal, that sort of thing. But if this is the case that they have not reached out to Jacobs, then that is pretty concerning to me. Cameron Lurker, he's right. We don't know. I mean, this is facts. It'd be interesting to see what is going on behind the scenes, and that would directly relate to what Josh Jacobs is feeling at this moment. Jeffrey Brewer, he needs to be paid the best back in the league. Okay. I mean, we're definitely going to touch on it. I don't know if he's the best running back in the league, but he's definitely an elite running back. And, let's talk about that. And another thing that we have to consider as well is, look, Josh Jacobs, he wants to get paid, but unfortunately, look, this is not a Las Vegas Raiders and Josh Jacobs, problem specifically. This problem has been going on, throughout the league, all around. This is a league-wide problem at the moment. We can see the NFL market for running backs right now is not great at all. We got our Josh Jacobs at 25 years of age. He's looking for a long-term deal as well. You also got New York Giants star running back Saquon Barkley at the age of 26. Same situation, looking to secure a long-term deal. Unable to do so. You also got Dallas Cowboys Tony Pollard looking for a contract as well. Also, too, another thing that was kind of surprising was Dalvin Cook. At the age of 27, he got released, and he's coming off of a 1,000-yard rushing season. Same situation with Ezekiel Elliott. He's released at the moment as well. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, too, was if you guys haven't seen, I mean, Melvin Gordon made a statement about running backs, and essentially what he said is it sucks to be a running back in the National Football League right now because teams all around the league are just very hesitant to play running backs, and there's no different with the Raiders. So he also touched on how Sean McVay, he basically touched on the fact that he thinks it really got worse after, if you remember, the LA Rams ended up paying Todd Gurley, and then after that, he did not live up to the hype. He got injured. And basically, he just didn't live up to his full potential. And then after that, at some point, Sean McVay made a statement saying that, that's the last time he would pay a running back. And shortly after that, I mean, the LA Rams, they won the Super Bowl. And really, that's just the way it seems like it's heading for running backs at the moment in the National Football League. Our guy Digital Prez, I'm convinced he'll play on the tag, even if he does hold out during camp throughout preseason. I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to sit out the whole year, but if he is unhappy, that is something that we have to keep into consideration. If he signs the tag and he sits out up until the start of the season, I mean, that's not going to be a good look for this team. That's not going to be a good situation for the team chemistry. Heading into an important season for the Raiders. Look, I don't expect us to necessarily make the playoffs. I mean, I hope we do, but at the same time, next year, I mean, there's a lot riding on next season. Really, the future of this roster going forward is really going to depend on, what happens next season, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo at the quarterback position. Same with Josh Jacobs as well. So, something to keep in mind on. I hope he doesn't hold out up until training camp, but we'll just have to see. Juan Galvin says, we need to just wait. I put my trust in Josh Jacobs to get his point around on what he truly means. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Robert Pena, it's crazy, though, to think how short-lived the running back position really is. Yo, that is 100% true, and that's something, too, that I wanted to talk about. The NFL, the running back situation for players around the league is just absolutely terrible. Like, really, there's not a whole lot of incentives for players to be running backs at this point. And I think, sometime soon in the NFL, they're going to have to step in. And what I mean by that is at some point, they're going to have to, try to, make some rule changes that could maybe help these running backs get their money, get them paid. The one thing I think that would be a good implementation from the NFL would be to, instead of a 4-year rookie year contract, I would do like 3 years. Let's, give these guys an opportunity to get to the negotiation table a little bit earlier in their career and, potentially get paid. Another thing too, I mean, I think the franchise tag when it comes to running backs should be eliminated because it essentially is like a cheat. It's like a cheat code at this point. I mean, that's what all teams are usually going to do when it comes to running back. They're typically just going to draft one. If they like him after his rookie deal is up, they might franchise tag him or they might trade him. But, the point is, I mean, this is a league-wide problem. And at a certain point, I think the NFL is going to have to step in. Jeffrey Brewer says, I'm a diehard Raiders fan, but I'm with him all the way. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel that way. I mean, Josh Jacobs, let's be honest, he's a fan favorite. I mean, the guy was drafted to the Oakland Raiders. I mean, he's been here for a while. So, I mean, a lot of people want him to stay. I mean, I want him to stay as well, but at the same time, I understand why this front office is a little bit hesitant to sign him to a long-term deal because, look, we're not the only ones in the situation. A lot of people throughout the league is the same thing. Richard Lyon says, I mean, I think we would be fine with or without Jacobs, in my opinion. We're going to touch on that later in this live. I mean, we will talk about the offensive line, the offensive scheme that, I do think has had a fair amount of I guess you could say a fair amount of the success to Josh Jacobs last season. Man was suffering from injuries since college. He finally got diagnosed with arthritis in his knees, which made him retire. Crazy to see he's only 28. Are you talking about Todd Gurley? Yep, that's true. Damn, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Kevin Lurker says, or college players are going to change their positions. That could be the case. I mean, all I'm saying is something's really got to change for these running backs because, as I said, the way it is right now, I mean, there's really no incentives to be a running back. I mean, it's one of the hardest positions to play in terms of, the wear and tear on your body. The lifespan for a running back is about 3.5 years. So it's like, man, you want these guys to kill themselves, physically, and then, they're going to get pennies on the dollar while other positions, quarterbacks, wide receivers, I mean, they get paid like crazy year in and year out. So Jack Kenna, Alex, salute, brother. Salute to you, my guy. Thank you for pulling up onto the show. Just hopefully the rules are not just a field goal game only option. Oh, the rule changes. Oh, okay, yeah. I hear you. Digital Press, 3-year deal seems like the league should lean on towards for extensions for running backs. For sure, for sure. But another thing we need to touch on a little bit as well is the injury history with Josh Jacobs. So look, this year in a contract year was the first year he didn't miss any games. That was good to see. But in 2019, he missed 2 games. In 2020, he missed 1 game. In 2021, he missed 2 games. And like I said, this 2022 NFL season, he missed 0 games. So, from an injury standpoint, like of Josh Jacobs missing games, I will say, I mean, it really hasn't been that bad. So let's do the math. He's missed 5 games in about 4 years. That's really not that bad. The guy definitely is very, he's a tough player. I mean, he'll play through injuries, he'll play hurt, and you love to see that. But at the same time, Jacobs never has had that big injury, right? He never has had, that torn ACL. He hasn't, suffered like an injury like Saquon Barkley has, but he has had a lot of, he's had a lot of small injuries here and there, like a hamstring here, a chest at some point. And he's had a lot of injuries where it's like, he's still able to play, but at the same time, it almost felt like we weren't able to get the most out of Josh Jacobs because he wasn't at 100%. So, that's something to keep in mind as well. I mean, what can we expect moving forward with Josh Jacobs and his injury history? Last year he missed 0 games, but after he gets paid to a long-term deal, what if he starts missing games, right? That's something we have to keep in mind. I mean, the same people that want to pay Josh Jacobs, X amount of money, are going to be the same people that are going to be very frustrated and call him out if he's missing games, down the line. And typically in the NFL, when you're running back, such a physically demanding position, usually those injuries don't, they usually get worse as you go on throughout your career. Digital Press, if college players change their position, we will see a boom in versatility across the league. It's slowly starting to pick up. I could see that, and that would be very exciting, man. It's very exciting to have running backs that can, line up outside if needed in the slot, line up as a receiver, things of that nature. Jack Kenner, running backs is a double-edged sword with their work. I mean, it's true. It's just such a physically demanding position. That Way Podcast. Josh ain't elite. There's no way the Raiders pay him for having 1 great season in 4 years. Look, it's definitely trending that way. I don't, I'm leaning towards the fact that we're not going to pay him in this offseason. More than likely, he's going to, play on that franchise tag. But I don't know. I would kind of describe. I do think Josh Jacobs is I think he's elite. I think he's a really good running back. He definitely has a lot of elite traits. But I also agree with you. I mean, we have to be a little bit cautious when it comes to paying him because unfortunately, in a cap salary driven league, you overpay a running back, that typically translates to another position on this team that you won't be able to put in the money, and typically that position is going to struggle for us. So, Robert Pena, hit that thumbs up, yes sir. Jack Kenner, Josh is different. Josh Jacobs is the 3rd best running back in Raiders history, being drafted by the Raiders. That's a bold statement. I mean, I haven't really thought about who would be the top running backs in the Raiders franchise, but I mean, Jacobs is definitely up there. I mean, he's a very good running back for sure. That Way Podcast, he can't carry a team like Henry. I mean, I will say Derrick Henry is a different type of running back. Like Derrick Henry is probably one of those ones that you would want to pay. But even then, it looks like the Titans are, there was a lot of rumors about them moving on from him as well. And, and he still had a really good season this year, but it's just his production began to decline a little bit. So But anyways, what should the Raiders do? Should they pay him before the deadline? Should they, just stick with the franchise tag? I mean, there's also the possibility they could trade him. I mean, um, I don't see that being very, realistic. I mean, it could happen. If that were to happen, it would basically just mean that Jacobs and the relationship between Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels at this point is just, basically the bridge has been burned when it comes to that. Richard Lyon says, feels like the whole contract talk about Waller last year, in my opinion. Yo, that's a good point. I mean, remember, just a year ago, everybody was out here, basically making their case that the Raiders should go ahead and pay, technically a generational talent like Darren Waller. And we did, man, ended up biting us in the butt, right? I mean, he wasn't able to stay healthy. Now, I will say, I mean, I think Darren Waller had more red flags than Josh Jacobs, especially when it comes to those injuries and stuff like that. But, definitely a good point as well. Raiders fans fall in love with players and do not look at the overall picture. I kind of agree with that. I feel like that's not just a Raiders thing, though. I mean, most fans throughout the league tend to do that, but I definitely I like where you're heading there. There is, an overall picture when it comes to stuff like that. Cash Lore Raider. No worries, Alex. Britton Brown going to tear it up in preseason and beat our starter. Damn, bro. I don't know about that. I mean, we'll have to see what he does in the preseason. I don't think he's going to be our starter. I mean, if Jacobs for whatever reason doesn't play next season, if he sits out, whatever the case may be, I think that they're going to lean towards Zamir White, but we'll just have to see on that. And another thing I wanted to touch on too was, so basically the thing that's really made this such a difficult conversation, such a I guess you could say such a dilemma here in the Raider Nation is because Josh Jacobs had his career year here with the Las Vegas Raiders last season. Let's just touch on that real quick. He led the league in rushing and over 1,600 yards on the ground. He had 12 touchdowns. He had over 2,000 all-purpose yards. He didn't miss any games last year. It was a contract year, and this is, what I want to touch on. This is kind of what, That Way podcast was kind of alluding to. Was the success of Josh Jacobs last year, was it mainly due to the scheme, to the play calling? I guess you could say that's the big picture, or was it mainly the dominance of Josh Jacobs? And also, too, I did make a video on this yesterday, basically a film study breaking down, specific plays where you can see the O-line doing well, Josh Jacobs doing well. So when you get a chance, I mean, make sure to watch that video as well. I go way more into detail about that, but make sure to watch that as well. Cash Lord was right. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to there, but right, Alex. But a down year for Henry is 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns, and the Titans wanted to trade him. I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, Derrick Henry, man, he was an absolute beast. And I think Derrick Henry, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Raiders could have had a chance to draft him, if I'm not mistaken, which that definitely, is that definitely hurts to think about. Britton Brown can block and has more vision than Zamir White. I mean, we'll just have to see on that. I mean, I haven't watched a whole lot of tape on Britton Brown, to be honest with you. So I'll have to look into him. I mean, hopefully he can get a good amount of playing time and snaps in the preseason. I definitely want to tune into the preseason. I want to see how our young players are developing, our rookies. But I will say, I mean, Zamir White, he didn't look too bad out there. I mean, he wasn't out there very much. But at the same time, it's going to be hard to have a guy out there when Josh Jacobs was dominating the way he did. I think Jacobs had 50% of the carries last season, but we'll just see how he develops. Raiders would have lost more games if Josh Jacobs didn't have a breakout season. I mean that's probably true, but at the same time, I mean, we went 6-11. I mean, how much worse could we have got? I mean, I don't know. Britton Brown and Zeus combined doesn't equal Josh Jacobs. That is true, but if we did end up moving from Josh Jacobs, I assume Josh McDaniels is going to go back to basically his bread and butter, right? What he knows, that running back by committee. And there's a reason why we had 5 running backs on the roster last season. It really felt like Josh McDaniels was trending towards that direction, right? We drafted a running back I think it was in the 4th round. We got all these running backs signed to the roster. We don't pick up Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option. It kind of seemed to feel like the direction of this team with Josh McDaniels. It seemed like they were going to move on from Josh Jacobs. It seemed like they were just going to use him up this year and move on from them. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, but Josh Jacobs had a hell of a season. So that's where it makes it so difficult. You don't want to let a guy coming off of 2,000 all-purpose yards just walk out the door. So we would have won more games without Carr, with Stidham last season. I don't know about that, man. I mean, I'm not a huge. I wasn't the biggest Derek Carr fan either, but I mean, I will say, Jarrett Stidham. I wish he was still on this team. It would have been interesting to see him a little bit more. We only got 2 games of film with him. The second game on the Kansas City Chiefs, after you had a whole game of film on him, he did kind of come back to life. So we just have to see. Digital Press, make sure to like the live. Yes, sir. Make sure to do that. And once again, anybody that's new to the channel, if you guys haven't done so, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell notification as well. That way you get notified every time I go live or post a video just like this one. So make sure to do that. Josh Jacobs had one of the best rushing O-line, top 10 last season. That, I don't have the exact rankings, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were top 10. And that is kind of what I'm going to touch on in this next slide right here. So look, when you get a chance, like I said, check out that film study. But, looking on tape, there was a lot of instances where the offensive line just did a really good job, blocking against the run. They did a very good job creating some holes. There were certain plays where Josh Jacobs, where he wasn't touched for 10, 20 yards. And, that definitely helped the success of Josh Jacobs. Also, too, another thing we have to take into consideration. So, look, I understand Josh McDaniels. Most people do not like our head coach, Josh McDaniels. And look, I can understand that there's a lot of things you can criticize about him. For me personally, the leadership standpoint is a little bit, I'm definitely, up in the air when it comes to that. I don't know how well he fares as a leader in that locker room, a leader of 53 men on that field. And another thing also to consider is his win-loss record. But one thing I will say, from an X's and O's standpoint, when it comes to Josh McDaniels, I really don't mind most of his play calling. Here and then he got too cute at times, but overall, if you look at it, McDaniels did a lot of good plays, a lot of good formations, a lot of good motioning plays, stuff like that. And the Josh McDaniels offense has rushed for over 2,000 yards in the last 3 seasons, so something to keep into consideration. And also, too, when you look at that breakdown, there were a lot of plays where Josh Jacobs just made tremendous plays. There are certain plays where, if Zamir White was out there, he probably gets 5 yards. But Josh Jacobs, with some of his elite traits, he got a lot more out of that play. And to me, what I see from Josh Jacobs when it comes to his traits, I think his most elite traits is the vision, the patience he has when it comes to finding the holes, finding the soft spots on the offensive line. He does really good too, finding those cutback lanes where, like I said, most people were going to take that first hole they see and just, jump that. But, he has the patience and the vision to see that. And sometimes it really helps him out to get a lot more yards out of that. And last but not least too, he is elite when it comes to yards after contact. If you look at it, he's just such a tough running back to stop. Initially, he does really good, with like stiff arms, with little feints, with just making guys miss. I mean, he's a hard guy to bring down, and it's the little stuff like that really make the bit a difference, right? I mean, every single play, if he can get those extra 2, 3, 4 yards, I mean, throughout the game and throughout a season, that really is going to help you out. Let's get back to the chat real quick. Jack Kenna, Derrick Henry was a second pick. Was he really a second overall pick? Damn, I don't remember. I don't remember that, but I could definitely be wrong. Kevin Lurker, go look at last year's highlights. Go look at last year's highlights before you decide to let him go. I mean, he's got a point. I mean, like I said, check out his film. I mean, he definitely did have a lot of great plays. And look, ultimately, I would like to keep Josh Jacobs because I really think that this is a pretty good match with the Josh McDaniels offense and Josh McDaniels. I mean, I think there's a reason why Josh Jacobs had his best year under Josh McDaniels' offense. At the same time, I do understand he wasn't a contract year, so that's definitely something that you're going to be motivated. Of course, you're going to be motivated when your salary, when your contract is on the line. But I think really this O-line, the way he was able to run block, and not only that, don't forget the fact that we also got rookie tight end Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. And look, a lot of people are really excited about him, being a threat, in the passing game. But really what I'm most excited about is his blocking ability. This guy he has tremendous blocking skills. And the way this offense could be built, a run first offense, a smash mouth football type of offense with Michael Mayer, I mean, I think he's going to be a great fit in this offense. And if he can continue to block like he was doing in college, then Josh Jacobs is going to continue to eat, in my opinion. God damn it, I missed it. I hear you, man. I still can't believe he left to the Denver Broncos, but it is what it is. Carr over Stidham, but missed Stidham now. Facts. I mean, I thought Stidham would have been the perfect backup quarterback for us. In case Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, I mean, I would be 100% fine with, riding it out with Stidham for a couple games, or who knows? I mean, it would have been interesting to see how he could do, being a full-time starter in the National Football League. I didn't like Gruden, but his whole strategy was to beat the Chiefs. And I think if we're not building to beat Mahomes, what are we doing? Everything goes through him, period. That is a fair point. I mean, it did seem like we were starting to play a lot better against the Kansas City Chiefs under John Gruden. If you remember that 2020 season, we had that big victory on the road against them. And then also we had that Sunday night football game where, I mean, we should have won that game. So, I mean, we did play really good that season against Kansas City. But I do kind of agree with that. I mean, the top dog of this AFC West is the Kansas City Chiefs, and not just of the AFC West, throughout the whole AFC. So we do have to build our team to match up well against them. And ultimately we have to beat them, man. I think it's been a while since we beat the Chiefs, so we have to. At the very least, even if we don't make the playoffs or whatever, I think it's going to be very important for us to beat the Chiefs. We have to send a message to them that, we're not going to roll over every time we play you. Well, and ultimately, man, you gotta, for Josh McDaniels and everything too, that's very important when it comes to building this team. It'll give you a lot of confidence moving forward. So that's something we definitely want to see. Robert Pena, hopefully our defense is going to be top tier this season. Hopefully, but I personally don't see that. I mean, we got a lot of young players on this defense. I will say when it comes to the secondary, I do like a lot of the players we have at the moment, a lot of young players. I am really excited to see Chris Smith out of Georgia play out there. He's a very smart football player, has a very high IQ. And, and hopefully he can kind of like light a fire under Trayvon Merrick as well, because Trayvon Merrick, I mean, we had a lot of high hopes for him as well. But the last couple seasons, I mean, it feels like his development has been kind of stunning. He didn't really have a great season last year. So hopefully, the secondary group can be pretty good. But I will say, I mean, I think this defense, I think we're going to struggle. I think we're going to struggle early on, but I mean, there's a lot of young players. Maybe throughout the season we can get a little bit better on defense. Maybe we can like towards the end of the season start to get, hot on defense. So we'll just have to see on that. Zeus needs better vision to run inside versus just outside. Could be true. I mean, I need to watch more film on Zamir White. If I get a chance, I'm probably going to do a video on him as well. So, Jack Kenna, Henry was a second-round pick, 45 overall. Yeah, that's what I remember. At least that's what I remembered. And I'm pretty sure we had a chance to draft him, but that was a long time ago though. I think he was drafted in 2017, so it's kind of hard to remember off the top of my head. Jimmy is perfect for this offense. Trust. He processes his play action is smooth. I will say, I mean, I do like, ultimately I was okay with us moving on from Derek Carr, going with Jimmy G, because at that point, it was more about a value standpoint more than anything else for me. Derek Carr, he's a good guy and everything, but maybe he's just not the best fit for this system. And ultimately, I mean, we got Jimmy Garoppolo on a pretty team-friendly deal. Just my biggest concern when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think it's the same concern for most of you guys, is, can he stay on the field? I mean, that's really going to be the biggest thing moving forward. Josh Jacobs has a combination of Bo's power with Marcus Allen making the first person miss. Okay, I see that. But ultimately, too, guys, I want to see what would you guys do when it comes to Josh Jacobs moving forward. Would you just stick with the franchise tag, or would you try to, reach a long-term deal before July 17th? As I said, the deadline for Josh Jacobs to sign that is, right around the corner, a little bit like 3 weeks, in about 3 weeks. So, and this is where I'm going to give my personal opinion. So I think what I would do, I would personally just keep Josh Jacobs on the franchise tag. A lot of people is not gonna, want to hear that, but ultimately, I think with Josh Jacobs, I want to see him do it in back-to-back years. I want to see him have another dominant season, and if he has another dominant season, I mean, we can definitely consider signing him to a long-term deal. So I see Josh Jacobs being back next season, but under that franchise tag. So that's what I would personally do. But another thing too that I was kind of thinking about this. I might be kind of thinking, too far ahead, but, let me know what you guys think. But, the most common scenario, the most likely scenario is that Josh Jacobs is going to get hit with that franchise tag. I mean, he's going to sign the franchise tag. So if he does sign the franchise tag, I was kind of thinking about it. Look, there's a couple of different scenarios that could play out with Josh Jacobs. And I don't know, thinking about both scenarios, I mean, it could be, like how much confidence would that give me? How much confidence would that give you guys that we would end up drafting him to a long-term deal when it comes to Josh Jacobs? So look, let's talk about some of the certain scenarios that could happen with Josh Jacobs being on that franchise tag. So look, the first scenario would be that, let's say Josh Jacobs has another good season. Let's say he has another dominant season. Let's say he has over 10 touchdowns. Maybe he can get close to 2,000 all-purpose yards as well. Or, I mean, he could even surpass what he did last season. Under that scenario, I feel like what would happen is, okay, that would put a little bit more pressure on the Raiders front office to sign Josh Jacobs, because at that point, he's done it in back-to-back years. I mean, the fan base, the fan base is going to be calling for their heads to go ahead and sign Josh Jacobs. But one thing that you got to also kind of consider is the fact that if he can continue this, or if he can even surpass the career year he had last season, then more than likely his price tag is just going to go up next season. And the way I kind of look at it is, if they weren't willing to pay Josh Jacobs in this offseason, more than likely next season his price tag is going to go up. And not only that, he's going to be a year older. So he's going to have another year of wear and tear on his body. So, it's something to consider. If they weren't able to if they weren't able to pay him this offseason, what would make us think that they would do it next year? I mean, it's something to think about, but at the same time, it just depends how well he plays, because, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to go ahead and bring this guy back. And another scenario too would be, what if the complete opposite ends up happening, right? What if Josh Jacobs has a down year? What if, let's say he has like 1,000 yards, maybe he, misses a couple games due to injury, maybe he has some crucial fumbles throughout the season. He's not the same player he was last season. Okay. So at that point, I think what would happen is, so more than likely the Raiders, if they want to go ahead and, sign Josh Jacobs, they would probably, at that point, that would give the Raiders front office a lot more leverage to go ahead and offer him a much smaller contract. So something something to keep in mind, they could more than likely lowball him. And at that point, if they lowball Josh Jacobs, there could be bad blood between Josh Jacobs and upper management. So, something to, keep into consideration. I mean, what do you guys think when it comes to that? Raider Nation for Life 420 says JJ will definitely sign a tag before training camp. IDK. I don't know why y'all keep complaining. All he's doing is his due diligence. Think about it. 1 year, 10 million, or get fined and go out like a fool, or sign the tag and get paid. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think he's definitely going to sign that franchise tag. I don't know if he's going to sit out in training camp. We'll just have to see. I hope not, but Alex Torres. Hey, Alex, what's good, my guy? Thank you for pulling up on the show. Ray says we needed to draft a true coverage linebacker. The key to beating the Chiefs is to take away Travis Kelce and putting pressure on Mahomes to make mistakes. Look, you're not lying, but I mean, who would you have drafted that you think could, stop Travis Kelce? Because I don't really think there's really anybody in this draft. The biggest issue with Travis Kelce is like really nobody in the National Football League can stop this guy. I mean, let's really think about it too. Most linebackers in the National Football League can't cover. Let's just be honest. There's just a couple. There's like a couple running backs in the league that they can do that, but they're typically getting paid $20 million a season. So unless you want to pay that, it's going to be hard to stop Travis Kelce. But I will say, they do have to find a way to slow him down. Ultimately, a guy like Travis Kelce, I don't think you're going to be able to stop him. He's just he's a Hall of Fame talent. So, but if you can at least hold him to like 50 yards, no touchdowns, that would be the most ideal thing. Unfortunately for the Raiders last season and that Monday Night Football game, I think he only had like 20 yards, but the biggest issue is he had like 4 touchdowns. So, and too with Mahomes, we do need to build up that defensive line, and that is the Raiders did address that in the draft. We did get Tyree Wilson to add to the defensive line, so hopefully this defensive line can be dominant and we can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Jack Kenna says 3 years, $36 million, $24 million guaranteed, so a 2-year deal. Okay, so basically like a 3-year deal, and you have like a team option, I guess you would say, after the second year. I like that contract. And speaking about contracts, so look, if we were to end up signing Josh Jacobs, this would be my most ideal contract. It is kind of similar to what Jack Kenna put out, but I know ideally for me it would be a 3 to 4 year contract, but the biggest thing is I need a team option after year 2. And I don't know if Josh Jacobs is going to like that, because You know, you see throughout the league, Dalvin Cook at 27 years of age. I mean, he was still pretty productive. He had over 1,000 yards. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. At 27 years of age, I mean, teams are ready to move on from them. So I think Josh Jacobs would understand that that could very well happen to him. And in terms of the guaranteed money, I would give him approximately $25 million in guaranteed money. I could go up to like $30 million. So basically, you know, yeah, he's only guaranteed 2 years, but at the same time, you know, that's why you're going to give him that good amount of guaranteed money. And, you know, the average approximate, you know, per year when it comes to his contract is I would like to give him $12 million per year. And essentially, I would give him like an incentive-based contract. I would pay him up to like $15 million per year, which would make him, you know, pretty close to one of the highest paid running backs in the leagues, but only if he hits certain goals, certain metrics throughout the season. Because look, when it comes to Josh Jacobs, look, I don't necessarily mind paying $15 million for a running back, I guess you could say. But if you're going to pay somebody that much money, the production has to match up the contract. So, you know, I think this, you know, type of contract would benefit both parties, I think. And ultimately it would keep the Raiders, it would help us cover our any risk when it comes to Jacobs if in the future he did, you know, start to get banged up, stuff of that nature. Kevin Lurker says the bad blood issue really bothers me. I mean, that is true. I mean, I will say, I mean, we don't really know for sure, you know, there's bad blood. Like I understand Josh Jacobs is putting out cryptic tweets and everything. I mean, he's doing his part. I mean, he's trying to put a little bit of pressure on the Raiders front office, but you know, we really don't know how bad that relationship has gotten. And I will say, I mean, if that goes into, like I said, if that goes into training camp, if Josh Jacobs has to, if he's sitting out, if the team if it's starting to affect the team chemistry, you know, that is going to be very concerning. You know, Josh Jacobs is a leader of this team. He is a captain of this football team. So, you know, that's something that we definitely need to consider. And I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll just have to see. Ray says, sign the tag. I agree. Denver signed the linebacker we needed. Who are you talking about specifically? Digital Press says Kelce will be 34 this season. He still has juice in him left. Probably be in the league for a couple more years. Yeah, more than likely. I mean, the thing is too with Travis Kelce, he's a player that really doesn't he doesn't rely on like, you know, crazy speed or, you know, like crazy athletic ability. He just is a really good at, you know, route running. Him and Patrick Mahomes have that really good connection. So Ray says Drew Sanders. Oh, I mean, look, I did like Drew Sanders. I really did. I did put a film study out on him, but I don't know his coverage. In my opinion, when I saw the film, his coverage skills to me were not there. I mean, I thought Drew Sanders would be a really good guy when it comes to like having a 3-4 outside linebacker that can rush on the edge, create some pressure on the opposing quarterback. I did like him when it comes to that. He was also, you know, athletic freak, but the guy also too, he had a really bad tackling. So, you know, I do like that player, but I don't think he's going to be the answer when it comes to Travis Kelce. But, you know, we'll just have to see. I hope not, because I don't want the Denver Broncos to do good. So, Chronicles of the Black Hole, shout out to you, OG Daniel. He said, you know that our offensive playbook is in the hands of the Donkeys defensive coordinator because Stidham, they are preparing for us. Yes, that is true. That is something too. When I did my last live, that's why I predicted I think we're going to lose week 1 against Denver Broncos on the road. Because, I mean, Jarrett Stidham is, I mean, he knows this playbook inside and out. And that was one of the things I really did like about Jarrett Stidham and why I think he would have been a really good backup role for this team. But, you know, at the same time, too, I think Josh McDaniels understands this as well. And I guess the advantage that is going for the Raiders is, you know, they got months to prepare for that game against the Denver Broncos. So if there was ever a time for Josh McDaniels to show different looks, you know, show a different side of his offense, it would be in week 1. And that would be a very smart thing to do because, you know, as you said, the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator, they're gonna know a lot of our, our our playbook when it comes to our scheme and our formations and tendencies that we have on offense. So Josh Jacobs is just coming into his prime at 24 years of age. How old is Saquon Barkley? 27 years old, and injury history. Josh Jacobs, 3 years, 36 million, 24 million guaranteed, so only a 2-year deal. So I'm pretty sure Josh Jacobs is 25 years of age. So I mean, he's still relatively young, but Saquon Barkley is 26, so he's not that much older. But Saquon too has also had a lot a much bigger injury history when it comes to Josh Jacobs. He is somebody that's had that big injury, a torn ACL, had to miss extended amount of time. So I don't know. I understand where you're coming from, but Alex Torres, we don't know what's a bad business for him. Probably he wants 15 or 16 million dollars, or maybe he wants 4 or 5 years. Both are crazy. I mean, I don't know. I would hope that Josh Jacobs isn't demanding that, because look, ultimately, I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think, any other team is going to trade for him. And then not only that, you would have to trade for Josh Jacobs, and then you would have to make him one of the highest paid running backs in the league. I don't see, people doing that. So, the market for the running back is just, terrible at the moment. The market has changed. So, I think Josh Jacobs at a certain point, he's going to have to compromise when it comes to the money. But as Josh Jacobs said on social media when he called somebody out, he said, I mean, we don't know what he's asking for, and some people are trying to paint that narrative, but we really don't know. So Jason Hernandez says, is a top 16 defense realistic this year? The optimistic side of me wants to say yes, but the realistic, I think we're more than likely gonna. To me, if we were like 20th, I'd be happy with that. Mainly, what I want to see with this defense is I want to see. So for one, I want to see these young players do well. I want to see them start to develop, but mostly, man, I want to see our defense be like a good defense when it comes to situational football. And that was one of the reasons why I was pretty excited about us signing Patrick Graham, because he preached a lot of these things, right? You need to be a good team in the National Football League, you need to know how to play on third down. You need to know how to play, on third and long. You need to know how to handle fourth and short situations. You have to come up big in those situations, in the red zone. So these are all things that, if you can do that, if you can be like a good bend but don't break defense, that would be very ideal for us. But unfortunately, I mean, our defense, was pretty awful at times last season. And there was times where, Patrick Graham had some head scratching play calls, like against the Los Angeles Rams, where he has one of our corners playing press man to man when, I'm pretty sure the Rams had 0 timeouts. There's like 30 seconds left on the clock. So that was bad. That was bad situational football when it comes to the play calling on the defense. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I hope we can be a top 16 defense, but I don't see that, to be honest with you. Drew Sanders, okay, yeah. He said he doesn't want more money. He said that in one of the reply comments. Oh, did he really? Oh, I did not see that. So, I mean, at that point, I don't. But then again, it kind of depends how much money, because he's going to want more money, right? I mean, but maybe what he means is he doesn't necessarily want to be the highest paid running back in the league. So at least according to Josh Jacobs. Okay. I mean, we'll just have to see what ends up happening ultimately, but Bernardo Ball Bomber, a nice name. Salute to you, man. Thank you for pulling up to the show. But Raider Nation, that's essentially what I think about this whole Josh Jacobs situation. I would like to keep him around, but just the way the situation has been going with him and the front office is going to be interesting to see what happens in this offseason. It's been pretty slow the past couple months. Hopefully, more things can pick up here in the next month or so. I think training camp is going to start right around the end of July. So, and then also that in August we're gonna have the preseason. So I'm definitely very excited for the season coming up. I definitely miss Raiders football, even if it's the preseason. Like I said, I am kind of excited to watch the preseason this year. I want to see how our young players begin to develop. I want to see, I want to see how. Also, there's certain players too that have a lot of versatility, because that was a big theme when it came to this off season. When it comes to signings, so when it comes to the draft picks, they like to get guys that can do multiple different things, that can play in different positions. So it'd be interesting to see, certain players where they end up putting them. If they Jacorian Bennett, for example, do they mainly plan on using him as a slot cornerback? Are they going to play him on the outside? Stuff of that nature. But yeah, Raider Nation, let me know in the comment section down below if there's anything you want to touch on real quick. But if not, we're gonna be heading towards the end of this live stream. And also too, in the comment section, let me know what type of content you would like to see in the upcoming future. Like I said, it's been pretty slow, so sometimes it's kind of hard to put out content when there's not a whole lot of at least current news to talk about, and I don't want to just force content. But at the same time, if there's certain, if you guys generally tend to like film studies more, let me know. I'm also planning on doing some other type of content too, like some you guys will see here in the near future, some type of different style content, but Raider related. So we'll just have to see about that. Dominique 5 said, "What's up, Alex? Hey, what's up, my guy? Thank you for pulling up." Hopefully, we hear something near the deadline, July 17th. Right? Yeah, you're talking about the Josh Jacobs situation. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys believe that whole that essentially that the Raiders have not reached out to Josh Jacobs yet? I don't know what to believe. If that is the case, that is pretty concerning to me. But hopefully they can get something done, and hopefully the two parties can find that soft spot. But more than likely, I think Josh Jacobs is going to play on that franchise tag. Clark Arroyo says, "What do you think about McLennan Curtis?" I don't know what you're talking about off the top of my head, so I'll put that down in my notes real quick. That way, when I get a chance, I can take a look at him on some film study. But I'll get back to you on that. Richard Lyon says, "I doubt they haven't reached out to him." That's what I would like to think as well. We hit Josh Jacobs with that franchise tag back in March, and we're almost in July, so that's almost 4 months. I understand probably in March and April, early May, they're going to be pretty busy with the off season when it comes to the free agency and also the NFL draft. So, but I would think they would have reached out to him at some point. Jorge C says, "What's good, Alex? Salute. Enjoy the content, bro. Keep it up." Hey, man, I appreciate that. And also, too, hey, thank you, Kevin Lurker, for the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. And also, too, guys, if you guys want to send super chats down the road, that'd be very appreciated. But I've always said, too, the best way you can, support, it doesn't cost any money to just, like, comment, subscribe, send this to anybody else that you think may be interested in Raiders content. But, thank you for that super chat, Kevin Lurker. Jorge says, "Tackle / guard Curtis." Okay, is he is he a free agent? Is he like an NFL veteran or is he, who did he used to play for or what? The best live I've seen since I got out of Freedom Town. you wild and Prez. Any other part of the team you want to talk about is becoming pretty boring talking just about Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I haven't really made it like a in-depth video talking about Josh Jacobs, but I understand. I mean, everybody's gonna have their opinion. Especially since it's been so slow. I mean, we see a Josh Jacobs tweet, everybody's gonna jump on that. So, I definitely understand that. Jorge says UDFA. Okay, definitely another guy I'm gonna add to my list. Oh, you're talking about he's on a roster, right? I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, Prez. No, he's a UDFA. We have him. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, probably we. Wait, is that the big dude? I forgot what. Out of Chattanooga or whatever. Jack Kenna. McClendon Curtis is one of the best UDFAs. He could be a starter at right guard. Wow, you really think so? Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to see if I can find some film study because there was one player, one of the UDFAs I was trying to do a film study on, but there was like no film on that school that he plays for. So I can't remember if that was him, but if I get a chance, I definitely want to watch some film on him. Digital Press says yes. Okay. Okay, so it is that guy from Chattanooga, right? Yeah, I'll have to double check, but if I remember correctly, I wasn't able to find any film on him, which definitely sucked. I wanted to do a deep dive about that. But that's an interesting statement that Jack Kenna made, that he thinks he could be the starting right guard. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm also kind of intrigued to see how the guy from the guy that played for the Denver Broncos, what's his name? I always mess up his name. Muti or something like that. He's a strong dude. I definitely gonna be interested to see how he can perform as well, because that right guard position was kind of a bit of a weak point for our team last season. At times when Alex Barnes was out there, he did a decent job, but I think we can definitely get if we can get an upgrade on that right guard position. I mean, this all line could be pretty good. Kevin Lurker says, yep. Okay, so it is the guy from Chattanooga, but also too, Bruce is saying the big guy is Dalton Wagner from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Okay. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's one thing I need to get back onto, the film studies. I want to do a little bit more film studies on the UDFAs because a lot of these guys. I mean, most of those guys I've never seen them play in college football, right? So something definitely I'm gonna consider. But Raider Nation, I think, right here, we're going to end this live stream. If you guys are new to the channel, once again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. That way you get notified every time I go live or post a video. But, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.